Welcome to Chicago Style Parenting, where we delve into parenting life in Chicago and uncover the resources, information, and support that Chicago families need.
I'm Satara, Director of Marketing and Content at NPN.
And I'm Amy, Executive Director of Neighborhood Parents Network. We are excited to chat with today's guest as we explore a few things that I think most of us can all agree that we love: traveling and family.
That's right. I know I can agree with that for sure. Our guest today is Shambrika Wise, an author, entrepreneur, co-creator, mama, and explorer. With a master's degree in public health, Shambrika is no stranger to hard work, but what she enjoys most is having the chance to create stories and memories as a co-author with her daughter. Shambrika, welcome. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you both for having me, and shout out to Star and for even thinking of me to get connected with you ladies. So thanks again. It's such an honor to be here. You did a great bio, like on the high levels, so thank you so much for that. As stated, my name is Shambrika Wise, and I am the co-creator and co-author of the series Sightseeing with Sandy with my daughter, whose name is Zendaya Leah Jolie, but for the book purposes, she is referred to as Sandy. The book was born out of the time of COVID, but it had some precursors to it as well that honestly started with my diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. And honestly, it was a love hate relationship, but in reverse, if you will, because who wants to be diagnosed with something like that? There's no cure for it, it's unpredictable, there's no blueprint, and it just really sucks, to be completely honest with you. But honestly, like going through that journey of the diagnosis and learning about the disease, and then learning how I honestly needed to treat myself, dealing with something of that magnitude while being a single mom at the time, because my divorce was about 2 weeks before my diagnosis. So it was just a wham bam all at the same time type of thing. It honestly made me relook at life and reprioritize everything, and including how I prioritize myself and how I saw like the legacy I wanted to leave within my child, was prioritized. And at times it wasn't. It was work, it was being a mom, and pretty much at the end of that day it was over, and let's just wake up and put it on repeat. But I was like, yeah, that's not how I want to do life. And so I just started to intentionally do more things. And I know for me, that word came before a lot of things like started to make the scene of like just being aware of things and being intentional on how you show up for people. I was intentional on how I showed up for myself, and this was back in 2015-16. So I really just, lean more on my faith. Had to kind of revisit how I viewed that, because everything was a struggle at that point. But, things that are looking like ashes do come into beauty. And that's exactly what happened. My mom kept showing up for me, and I will never forget. She got these books from the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation, and she would always leave them at my house when she visited, and I would throw them away. And one day I decided to pick them up and read them. And one of the first articles I got to was foods that you have to get up or give up, or should give up after a diagnosis like MS. And it gave various reasons. And they were not bad reasons. But the first picture was of a donut. And I threw it in my fireplace and I lit it. I was like, nope. I was like, this is not for me. I tried. Nope, absolutely not. And so one day, much later after that burning, um, I did decide to pick up the book, because I was like, I can spend time being angry about this, or I can appreciate the fact that I still have a mom that is able to show up for me, that is able to love me and pour into me, that I have a kid that still thinks I'm superwoman, even if I don't feel like it. Because after my second hospitalization, I couldn't even pick her up. I was paralyzed on my left side. And so that physical therapy was so daunting, emotionally, mentally, physically, everything. And I was just like, I'm starting to feel like it's not if I get through this, it's like when I get to the other side of this, show me how I'm supposed to live, not only for myself and my kid, but for other people too. Because I met a lot of people in physical therapy, and I was actually the youngest one going, because I was at a rehab center in Texarkana, Texas. I will never forget this time. And I was there with actually one of my third grade teachers, and she had had a stroke. And I literally gave that woman her flowers on my last day, and her husband was there with her. And he said, she doesn't react to people the way that you would think she would unless she does know you. And he said, she remembers you. I said, I remember her. And just that moment, it was such an honor to give her flowers and make her smile, but it was also a gentle reminder of me, like, I still have life. And so while I have the ability, the capability, the mental consciousness, like everything, like I want to do good things. And I want to show my kid, like, this is how we're going to live life and live it to the best of our abilities each and every day. We don't have to like go hang the moon and stars, but we are going to give our best to ourselves and to each other. And that's all that we need to worry about doing. And so the same book that I would read, I actually ended up contacting the executive director, and I was like, this is my journey and this is how I actually viewed your materials. And I got to a point to where I just was angry all the time. But your articles were so not assuming, and they were not at all invoking like emotions that, other people would say they know how you feel. It was more like, you know what, we can acknowledge the space that you're in and we hold space for you. We are not you, but we invite you to have us in however we need to show up for you. And I just wanted to tell her thank you. And I never expected to hear back from her, but Casey is like one of the most amazing human beings because she wrote me back and she told me how appreciative she was of my note. And shortly after, she asked me if I'd be on the board. I'm like, whoa. Like, I just wanted to tell you everything was cool. I don't know if you want me as an advocate, and that was like, she didn't even know I burned the book at that point. So it was just like, I don't know if I'm your person. But then I thought about it. I was like, maybe this is what I need to like be okay with this thing in the capacity that, I'm now kind of acquainted with multiple sclerosis. And honestly, that was the best thing for me. I'm still on the advisory board for MS Focus, and it's been just amazing. I write articles for them now. I do cute little blogs. We've now started to uncover this thought about a mini series, and I pulled in some of my friends who are not necessarily MS diagnoses people, but they are advocates, and they love me. They love me, and they want to make sure I'm good. So this is a really fun time that we're doing in life for that community, and I'm very humbled and grateful for it. And one of the things that they did early on, they invited me to do a roundtable, and my kid was she had just turned 6. And so we hadn't really taken a trip because I had been going through diagnosis and rounds of medication that didn't work until something finally did. And I felt like that was the time I was literally getting my life back, was around 2019. Honestly, it was 2019 where I just felt like I was like, okay, like this medicine is working. I feel good. I have my energy. I can be, assured of certain things, not thinking that everything is going to be promised day to day, but I can be assured of certain things. And I felt like the turtle trying to go into the water. I'm like, I don't know if I want to go in just yet so deep, but I'll stick my toe in. So that was a big step for me. And when they invited me to do the round table, I was like, oh, we haven't really taken a trip. Like, let's go. So this was this kiddo's first time on a flight, going somewhere where she, in my opinion, was old enough to actually remember the trip. So when we were on our way to the airport, it was smooth traffic, no heavy traffic in Dallas. And I was like, oh, okay, we got lucked out. TSA had a line of like 2 minutes. I'm like, okay, this is scary. Like, why is this so perfect? We got to our terminal. We were able to go into the lounge and get some food. I'm like, okay, what is about to go wrong? I'm feeling like Final Destination vibes at this point because I'm just the mom. I'm like, this is not supposed to be so perfect. But then we got on the flight and she was like, we're on the wrong plane. I'm like, I knew it. I was like, I knew something was going to happen. And keep in mind, she just turned 6. So I'm taking my conscious moment of freaking out at this point from a kid. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she was like, it's no black people on here. We are on the wrong flight. Where are all the brown people? Where are the black people? Is nobody on here that looks like us? This is an audible conversation, by the way. Like, she was not whispering, and she has no filter. And there was this cute little white couple in front of us, and they were cracking up. And he said, well, she has a point. Like, you need to talk to her about that. I'm like, y'all are not helping. So they just laughed. And she was like, but we're not on the right flight. I'm like, baby, I was like, so much to do with what you're saying. So we had a conversation, a short one. And I was like, we'll talk more off the flight. But at this point, row 30 had cracked up at her. So when we got off the flight, I addressed her concerns because I never minimize her. And I said, now you made a very astute observation that was extremely loud on the plane. And we'll get to that too. I said, but if that's concerning to you, tell me why it's concerning. And she said, well, if we were there, why aren't other people there? I said, well, first of all, it's the middle of the week and most people are at work. Most kids are back in school because it was after the holidays. And I said, your school doesn't start till next week. So you lucked out. I said, and then this is a business trip. Like, most kids don't travel with their parents for business trips. And I said, but also traveling is a privilege. I said, I am not paying for a lot of this trip. I said, I paid for your ticket. And I said, I'm going to pay for your allowances of food and stuff like that. I was like, but that's not an everyday thing that everybody gets to experience. And she said, well, that's not fair. And kids should see the world. So you fix everything else, you have to fix this too. Keep in mind, I'm a single parent. So she's seen me literally fix things that need to be fixed on a regular basis. And I'm just like, I don't know how you want me to fix this. So she's like, well, can't you just take everybody on a trip? I said, absolutely not. And she said, well, I like cartoons, and cartoons shows me a lot of stuff. And she did. That was how she was engaging with, different things and avenues that weren't something that she could experience on her own. Right. So she was like, can you just draw a cartoon? You know how to color? I was like, it's not that simple, but let's put a pin in that. So if I win the lottery one day, we can just do it. She was like, okay. She said, well, you can't do any of that stuff. Are you too old to write a children's book? And I'm just like, you are rude, but no, I'm not too old to write a children's book. And she was just like, okay, well, let's do that because I like to read and I like pictures and everybody can look at pictures and it's not a lot of money. And I was like, okay. I said, well, let's talk about that. So life, and then things just got busy. About a week later, she was at home for MLK Day, which I was just like, okay, we're both here looking at each other. And she's like, well, did you fix the problem yet? And I was like, what are you talking about? Because been asleep 7 moons since that conversation, right? And she said, well, we talked about the children's book. Did you finish writing one yet? I was like, I'm sorry. You absolutely did charge me with that. No, I have not done a thing. That day, I took her, she packed a lunch because she didn't trust me. She was like, I'm going to pack a lunch because I don't know how long we're going to be gone. We did market research and we went to Barnes & Noble and we went to a few other independent bookstores. And we tried to look into the children's section to see where we could find an adventure series because she wanted the kiddos to see the world. So I'm thinking like, this could be a thing. Like, let's see what's out there. So let's kind of gravitate to what that is. And we didn't really find anything along the lines of what me and Sandaya's vision was because we kind of like had our own little blueprint before we left home about what was important. She apparently is going to be a kid that likes to party. I'm going to pin that for college. She likes to eat a lot. And she likes to experience good times. Again, I'm a pin that for college. But she wanted to convey that in a book for kiddos. And so I was just like, okay, this is going to be an interactive thing. I said, and this is something that I kind of want to invite parents to as well, because I was having fun trying to research and figure this thing out. And so the first idea that we had was to write a book about the Bahamas, which is where her grandmother lived. And she hadn't gone there yet. And she was just like, I want to do something fun when I'm there in the book. And so we interviewed her dad, we interviewed her grandmother, and we talked about Junkanoo, which is the celebration during Christmas time, which I never even heard of. And she got to, just really have this immersive one-on-one type of building of something that she wanted to see that not only highlighted her culture, but the culture for the rest of the world that may not have access to go to the Bahamas. And so that was January 2020. Well, you know what happened in March 2020. And so I was just like, okay, I'm going to have to really figure out my whole thing of how I'm going to teach my kid while she's here, because she was my coworker for the next 3 years because I kept her home essentially. And it was rough that first few weeks because she missed her friends. But then when I gave her agency over, like, okay, like, just because you're not with your friends, like, let's pick out how we want to learn. Like, how do you like to learn? She's like, I like to go outside. I'm like, we live in Texas. Is that necessary? But we did. we went outside, and I'm like, okay, if you want to go take lake samples and look at them under a microscope, we're doing that first thing in the morning or we're doing it in the evening. I will not be out at high noon with you. So that was biology. That was all types of science lessons. That was art, because she loved to draw what she learned and what she saw under the microscope. I gave her fun history lessons. Like, it was like square one and PBS all over again for me. And it was fun. But we saw that after that first book that we wrote for fun, and just like as a thought, and something to show her, like, you can be the solution to a problem, and it doesn't have to be anything magnificent on a level where it's unattainable. Like, that was the norm. Nobody was traveling. So that was something she wanted to keep up. And 4 years later and 5 books later, like, we've had an amazing time. We have been to the Bahamas in the book. We've gone to France with the series, North Africa, India, and Jamaica. And we've highlighted all real kids along the way that we've known in life, people that have made the difference in our books. We still have some coming out. And it's just been awesome. It has been absolutely amazing. And it's like, I know that was a whole question that probably, you thought was going to end 10 minutes ago, but that's literally how this whole thing happened. And I can't shorten it.
No, I mean, honestly, it's all amazing. I love to travel as well. I just, as you're telling the story, I just think, not only are you creating like educational opportunities for and with your daughter, because you all, like you said, she was your coworker for a number of years, but you're also building memories that she'll be able to look back on. She'll be able to read these books to her kids one day, and her kids will be able to read it. Like, so it's super, super awesome. I think it's amazing that you get to share your story and experience with others, and more than anything with your daughter, Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I know that the idea was born from COVID, when there wasn't much travel going on. And now, as the weather outside gets a little more frightful in Chicago, and we're getting to a place where many people are starting to like hunker down for winter and avoid traveling. What tips do you have for creating travel experiences right here in the city, or even for those that don't like to go outside in the winter, like right inside of their homes?
So we'll address both the crazy people that are going to be venturing out, that's over here involuntarily because my child wants to do it voluntarily. So I would say get you some good snow gear and some good snowsuits and just go. Stay warm, take you a thermos with some tea, just go. But honestly, I love hiking in the fall and in the winter because all the bugs are dead. I am not a bug person. I will run away and leave the child. I'm the person that will burn the house down if I see a spider. Like, I don't like creatures, but I love them in their element and I respect their element. So I love this time of the year because I can just really take those nice long walks and really enjoy the scene around me. And I think, like, with my child specifically, you have to know your kid, right? That gives her peace and that's grounding for her. And so if she gets to recharge in a healthy way, like, that helps me, that helps her, that helps her with, just kind of decompressing. And I think that's something that I had to learn with her, is that you don't really think about kids needing to decompress. They don't work, they go to school. Well, you know what? That's their job. And so just like we need to decompress and have moments after we're done with the work week, so do they. So I do whatever I have to do to make sure she can attain that level of peace and happiness and just recharging for her. Now, in the city of Chicago, you're not really absent of missing much for this time of the year, especially. I know like I've already started looking at the teas at the Drake because that was just a really fun experience that, you just can't get anywhere else because it's the Drake, right? And you learn about the royalty that comes to visit. You learn about the cute little teas that, are so well thought out, and the bites that come with them. Again, very well thought out. It's such a lovely and welcoming environment. So, and my kid is no like Southern Belle. She's the opposite of me. But even she loved that opportunity. And she's like, we're going again, right? And I'm like, we need some etiquette classes, which is something else you can find in the city of Chicago. But she loved it. So I loved it. So we're going to go back. I know I was talking to you the other day about the Harlem Nutcracker. There are so many versions of Nutcrackers that come to the city of Chicago. So that's something that I'm looking forward to checking out too. I think the
Me
one
too.
that
I
we
added it to my list of things to check out.
yeah. And I think I told you too, we were able to get the tickets like 50% off just in a Facebook ad. It was amazing. So we had like front row seats for hardly anything. So it was awesome. And just giving her that opportunity to see again something different. I love that. I love the tours of lights, and some of the buildings open up for architectural tours, which is what we're seeing this weekend. I know like a lot of those links went up, and the itineraries were able to be saved and everything. So I think we hit up about 8 or 9 spots that we're dedicated to seeing this weekend. But just showing your kids all these different things, because you never know what an adventure may spark with them as far as an interest or something that they want to actually pursue as a career, or who they may meet along the way. So I take all the opportunities to do with her. I know last year during the holidays we went up to Wilmette, and of course the Baha'i Temple is just beautiful. If you've not gone, I totally encourage both of you to visit that place. It's just beautiful. And you can't take pictures inside the temple. It's a space of peace and respect, of course, but the grounds are just so peaceful, and it's just a beautiful place for, again, families to go and just center. But after we visited the temple, we found the Home Alone house. That is like a cornerstone movie. If the holidays are here, then I have to kick it off with Die Hard and Home Alone and Harry Potter. Like that's it. Like that's how we start the holidays. And then of course Beyonce's 7-Eleven video. We have to, because it's just how you bring in the holiday season. But yeah, it was so fun to share that memory with her, and we even bought the dog. So he was loving it. He loved all the people that were there, and we went on Christmas Day, and ironically, it was a lot of people that were there. So it was a fun memory to make. And again, like you said, it's all about the memories. It's not so much about the actual stuff you're doing. It's definitely about the memories.
I love all those ideas, and I wrote them all down to include in our show notes so we can share them with all of our listeners and link directly to all these fun places to go and things to do in Chicago. But Shambrika, you mentioned being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2015, and you talked about how that really helped you appreciate how you wanted to live the rest of your life, how you wanted to experience the rest of your life, and kind of solidify some priorities for you. But I wondered how that changed your perspective on traveling in particular. And we can tell that you have a lot of fun with your mommy-daughter adventures, but what has also kept you motivated to continue doing those, if there's anything else?
Her. Because having MS, and especially that second relapse where I was paralyzed, like I literally was laying in the bed, and you can fact check me. August 6th, 2016, I believe that was the Summer Olympics, and I could barely pick up a pen to write. And I'm literally watching these Olympians that Friday on TV, and I'm just like, what the heck? Like, what is the irony of this entire moment? And it was in that moment I was like, there has to be a reason behind this. I am not in this crazy moment for nothing. And so I had to, number one, remember that I was enough, because as much as I love her, I was here independent of her for almost 30 years. And so I needed to know that I was enough, and that my life was totally valid, and it was viable, and it was so much left to live. But laying there and can't move half my body, it's really hard to like mentally connect that to my heart, right? But I first had to find that. Then when I found that, and I really started to accept it, I was like, she's the best part of me that's going to be going forward, hopefully, when I'm, looking down on her. And so I want to make sure I show her, like, this is how you do life. Like, don't do anything illegal, but 9 out of 10 times, don't worry about asking. Just ask for forgiveness, but just do it. Like, just do it. But I saw that, she didn't have anybody else in our life, if you will, that she trusted at the time enough to just be her precocious, naturally loud, fun, easygoing, just non-biased and non-judgmental self with. She did that with me. And you know how a lot of moms are like, I'm not your friend, I'm your mom. I think I tried that on her one day. She was like, "No, mommy, you're my best friend, and I don't know what else you want me to do. Like, I don't have any other best friends but you." And it was really cute because she was a tiny little thing. She was like 3, and she was in daycare. I was like, "What about those?" She's like, "They're nasty children, and they pick their nose." And she was like, I can't tell them not to do that because they don't listen to me. They're just babies. And I'm like, oh my God. So I don't think that mentality ever left her. I think she's like, she definitely has her circle of girlfriends now. Like, let's be clear. But she still is overly inviting in my space. I can be sitting working, and if she's home, she will come flat plop on my lap. Like, what you doing? I'm like, boundaries. So she reminds me politely, we have no boundaries. I'm like, but yes, we do. You would think it's the other way around. It's not. Like, I feel like I'm not the only mom that probably is going through that with her kid, especially if it's a girl right now. I feel for them. Like, y'all need to check on us. Y'all need to check on us.
That's why we're here. Do you have any tips or words of encouragement for other people who may feel that a disease or disability may prevent them from traveling?
No, I had this conversation with her yesterday, and we were just talking, and I stopped thinking in a limited mindset when I wanted to start living my life again. And it wasn't like if I could do 9 out of the 10 things I wanted to do, it was now how and when. Because yeah, you have to honor the space that your body is in. And I tell people all the time, like, MS put me in a space where I even learn differently. I was a visual learner already, but I am totally a visual learner now. And like, the way I gravitate towards learning visually, I will reenact with art. And it's peaceful to me, it's calming to me, it's something I can share with Zendaya, and I'm seeing that she's picking that up too. That's like one of her things that she loves to do, is drawing and painting and just playing with art. And she loves watching videos on like how things are done. She says she wants to be a scientist, but I really see her more of an engineer, because she gets in there and she's just like, I need to understand these mechanisms, and I want to break things down, and I want to understand it. So I really feel like once I accepted where I was, I could really and truly honor that space. And there have been parts of my life I had to gracefully mourn and let go of, because my body is not the same that it used to be, and I can accept that. But I'm very thankful for where we still are. And I'm thankful that there are a lot of things that I have at my disposal and at my reach that will enable me to still be a part of the spaces I desire to be a part of, and to live the life I want to live. And again, it's not if I'm going to do it, it's how. And kind of figuring that out with Zendaya is the best part of the journey, because there's never a dull moment. There is never a like, oh my God, what did we do now? Like, I'm not opposed to being married again, but when and if I meet that person, I really hope he is ready for this wild ride, because it is, again, never a dull moment in this house. And he's going to have a heart of a saint, and no fear factor, like no fear factor at all. So
I love that. Thank you.
I love it too. Like, and I think I get some of my fearlessness, honestly, from my kid, because she has nothing impeding her from like, or impeding her, I should say, from like just being who she authentically is and showing up in her full self, whatever that might look like on any day. And I have learned to do that too.
I love that. I want to meet your daughter now. I am like
You
such
can
a fan.
babysit. Just return to sender is not allowed.
She sounds amazing. Honestly, I think a lot of kids are like, not a lot of kids, not everyone, but a lot of kids have that, you know, no filter to them. But it's so, as we grow up, we just learn to hide so much of ourselves that
Mhm.
when you see it, it's just like, this is
Here.
authentic,
Hmm.
so real. It's like, I wish I had a little bit of it too. So the fact that you get to learn from it and witness it and embrace it yourself is such a blessing.
It is.
All right, so we have a couple of lightning round questions. Just because while talking with you, I feel really grateful to have gotten to know you a little bit better, and I think just a few quick lightning round questions will help our audience get to know you a little bit better too. So I think Amy's actually going to kick us off with a double question. So,
Okay.
Yes. First, what are your favorite destinations for family vacations? And then, second, what is your favorite neighborhood to explore in Chicago?
Okay. First question is so easy. Telluride, Colorado. And I say that because, again, my child is outdoorsy everything. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the cartoon called Masha and the Bear, but Masha is Zendaya and Zendaya is Masha. If you don't know that cartoon, I'm going to send you a link to my favorite cartoon. I think it's Prances with Wolves. And I know it because traumatically it's probably the funniest cartoon I've ever seen. But that cartoon was done by an uncle or an aunt who was stuck with his niece or nephew, and they were not ready for what waited them. I promise you they had some type of story behind that because it just tickled my soul. But Masha lives in a home. However, all her friends are in the woods. That is my child because when we were in Telluride, we had gotten an invite from some really wonderful people. It was actually Jim and Lee, shout out from NSHSS, and they had a beautiful cabin. It was actually after I had gotten sick, and he was like, come up with us. We're going to the cabin. Just come up here, relax, and see how you feel up here. And the weather was perfect for my MS. The sky had been just clear the entire time we were there, so it's like you could see almost every star in the galaxy. It was just beautiful. And for Zendaya, she was happy because he had a lake that was filled with trout. So she got to go fishing. She got to explore outside. The mountains were beautiful. Elk came right up to the door. Like it was just gorgeous. And she was just like, I want to live here forever. I'm like, you need a whole set of jobs, then some. Like, but I hear you. But it was gorgeous. So I don't opt for like the typical island destination. If I just really need to go and take a deep breath in, like Telluride, that's my type of place to go with my girl, especially. Um,
Okay.
and then the second question, please remind me again because I totally forgot.
What's your favorite neighborhood to explore in Chicago?
um, I'm a foodie. I love Lincoln Park. Lincoln Park is beautiful because it has so many tree-lined streets. I love Gold Coast. That's pretty close to obviously where we live too. Anywhere that has a good farmers market. I can't decide what my favorite neighborhood is because each one has like something really cool to offer that is just so unique to it. But if I had to pick one or two, I'd say Lincoln Park and Gold Coast.
awesome.
They are beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Next question. Where would you never travel again, either solo or with Sandy?
So she has never come to New York with me, but I love New York. I feel like the way it's laid out and just how, you have to get to certain places, I could never go there with her because she has the patience of a Miranda Priestley. Like she's not here for the nonsense. She does not like to be in traffic long. Like I'm just like, I don't know where this old lady vibe came from because you act literally like an 85-year-old woman who is always waiting on somebody to do something. But I was just like, you are just different. But I don't think she'd do well in a New York City right now. I think she'd do well in like the suburbs because, again, green space outside. Like she would do well. She'd do well in the Hamptons. She would not do well in the city because it's too much for her. And that's just who she is. She is very, very chill, very laid back, very low key. So I would definitely not take her to New York. I can't wait to go back to Paris. And again, she's never been there. So that would be her first trip. It was so beautiful. And I think she would love it. That's actually one of our books. And she has been in a romance with Paris since Fancy Nancy, the cartoon from Disney, came out.
Yeah.
That has not gone away. She is everything pink, Paris, like tease, all the things. That's my kid.
All right, last one. What would you say is a must-visit hidden gem in Chicago?
The reading room at the University of Chicago. I do not know the proper name for it, but I found what was it? It was a reel on TikTok or Instagram, one of the two, and it shows up as like a Harry Potterish type of scene. And so I took my kid there. I was like, let's walk around college campus. We have some of the best colleges, in this area, like right here in Chicago or nearby. Let's go to UC. It's an amazing college. So she was already taking music lessons there, and we just got more acquainted with the campus. I did a program there, so I showed her where my dorms were at the time, and it was just a really great opportunity. And we just stumbled upon this reading room that they talked about in this reel. I'm like, oh my god, this does look like a scene out of Harry Potter. So I like it. And I don't know if a lot of people have things that they need to read, but if you do, that's a perfect place to go do it. And the campus is beautiful. It's so beautiful. Pretty accessible in my opinion. They have one of my favorite restaurants, Root, is there right at the edge of campus. So really good place to go grab a bite to eat too.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, University of Chicago is all Harry Potterish. It's the gargoyles and the statues, and yeah, it's a beautiful campus.
I loved it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, Shambrika. Listeners, we really hope you enjoyed this episode as well. Check out our show notes for a link to Shambrika's website and to find out where you can pick up a copy of one of her books.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so glad to have you. Listeners, in our show notes, you can also tell us what else you'd like to hear about and who you'd like to hear from next by completing a quick form. Hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop, and we'll see you around the neighborhood.